episode 17 of the Let's Talk Boxing podcast. I'm your host, as always, Luke Simboxx. Delighted, as always, to be joined by my esteemed co-host, Jamie Ryan. Jamie, how are we doing this week, man?
Yeah, man. All good, all good. Looking forward to another episode. Looking forward to getting another guest on, man. They're coming thick and fast, aren't they now?
That's it. Week after week, we're trying to bring on some expert eyes, some expert opinions. And this week, we bring Ramez Mahmood onto the Let's Talk Boxing podcast. Ramez, welcome to the show. Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to this.
Definitely, Ramez, it's always been an interesting one with yourself because we followed each other on social media. I've had you involved with some predictions before now, but I was going back through my archives of interviews here on SimBoxx, and I can't believe I've never actually had you on for an interview. I don't know how that's ever happened.
Yeah, it's mad that, isn't it? But there's a lot of boxes out there, so I imagine there's a lot to get through. But that's all right. We're here now.
That's it, absolutely. And we had a bit of a drought last week, no real boxing action of which to speak. But this week we roll into the big rematch, Lee Wood, Josh Warrington 2, with a great undercard. We've got Ryan Garcia challenging for the WBC welterweight world title, so plenty to get into. But first and foremost, Ramez, we'll touch on yourself. You happily retired now. I say happily retired. I'm putting words in your mouth there, but in retirement, still busy, still involved heavily with boxing. So talk to us about life since you hung up the gloves.
Yeah, so retired just over 2 years ago now. Said happily, but it is difficult. There's times where I look around and be like, did I make the right decision? I still overthink it now sometimes, to be honest. But no, life's been good. Been busy working. Got married in that time. I'm busy with the amateurs, doing bits and pieces with the pros. So yeah, I'm probably busier now than I was when I was boxing.
Good to hear. I've got to pick up on that there. So you got married since you retired from boxing. Was that one of the deal breakers with the missus that you had to hang up the gloves before she got married? She weren't going to marry someone with a broken nose and a black eye and all that.
No, no, that actually wasn't it. My nose was already dodged by the time I met her, so my nose has been long gone for the past 5 years now.
Brilliant to hear. So you retired, two-time English champion, two-time English title challenger, 15-3. I think I'm right in saying 15-3 record.
Yep, that's it. Yeah,
Happy with how the pro career went? You look back with fond memories.
yeah, I do. I look back with fond memories. Look back with a couple of disappointments, but that was always going to be the case. But yeah, mostly enjoyed it. Can't complain so much. And if I look back, if my sort of 12-year-old boy looked back at it, he'd have been proud of what he went on to achieve.
Absolutely, and I don't want to make you feel old here, but 10 years ago this year, you made your pro debut.
It's mental, isn't it? That 10 years went quick. Like I blink and I miss it. So I saw one thing I do regret a little bit is I didn't enjoy the moments as much
Yeah.
as I should have. Like I would achieve something, but I was so fixated on what's next, what's next, what's next.
Yeah.
So I couldn't enjoy those moments. And I look back now, like maybe I should have enjoyed that a bit more, or should have done this sort of thing. So I do wish I enjoyed it a bit more. So any sort of young pro coming through, you just enjoy every moment when you achieve, even if it's a small milestone, like embrace that moment because you never get it again, sort of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, you just mentioned then that that there was moments probably you look back on and thought I probably should have embraced them a bit more. Out of your pro career, which moment would you say was the one that you was this probably a shining light on your entire career that you look back on with the fondest of memory?
I'd say winning a title is always good. So I think winning my first Southern Area title, I think that was nice. But because the boy I was boxing was unbeaten at the time, and I remember him from the amateurs. He was a GB champion as an amateur as well. So I think he was probably tipped to going to do massive things. So for me to beat him in quite comfortable fashion, was quite good. And as I said, I didn't really enjoy the moment. I beat him on the Saturday. I was back in the gym on the Monday, working towards what's next.
Yeah, yeah.
I went back and had a look at your box rec, Ramez, and the guy that we mentioned there, 10 years on from your pro debut, the guy that you fought on your debut, Danilis Kukurs, I think I'm right in saying his name is.
Yeah,
You ever go back and look at his record?
yeah. So I remember at the time, he was 2-1, with two KOs at the time.
Yeah.
I remember thinking at the time, I was like, I've got to find some footage of him because I don't know what to expect. I was super nervous. Couldn't find nothing on him, and I remember getting to the venue and seeing someone going out in a stretcher. I was like, oh, hopefully that's not me next.
Well, that
But
was the
luckily
thing
that
when,
turned out okay. But
yeah, sorry, I was just going to say when I looked at his record, he drew on his debut, then won two fights by knockout, lost two fights by knockout, including to yourself. against four debutants in a row and then just called it a day after five fights. And I thought, you can go down some rabbit holes sometimes on BoxRec, and that's one of the more peculiar records that I've seen.
It is, yeah. He retired after fighting Mr. Mahmood. Point of
Yeah.
retirement.
So tell us about life in the gym. Am I right in saying that you work alongside Jamie TKV? Do you have business with Jamie?
Yeah, so I assist his coach Barry Smith. So I do a bit of assisting with Barry. Barry's helped me out so much. I was helping out in the corner where he beat Fraser Clark. Jamie's a good guy, and it's nice to see how far he's come because I remember just as I was retiring was when Jamie was making his debut.
Yeah.
And at the time where he would talk to me about the pro game and what's going on, and it's now nice to see him become British champion and do what he's doing. And to be in that corner was my best boxing night post retirement.
That's really good to hear. Jamie, speaking on TKV, beating Fraser Clark, I think he's right to say he was an underdog going into that fight, and he's
Was
almost had
yeah.
that underdog mentality, hasn't he, coming through? And at different stages, Fabio Wardley or Fraser Clark or Dave Allen. Now it's almost like he's, I don't know what to say, disrespected, but severely underrated. He's almost looked at like if Dave Allen decided to go for the British title, it's just a matter of he turns up and he beats TKV, or Fraser Clark winning the British title. It was just a matter of him turning up and beating TKV, and it's not been the case at all.
No,
This is it.
he's definitely upset the apple cart a couple of times, and you know what, he was doing really well against Adelaide as well. And I thought
Yeah.
that was he was winning that fight in my eyes. And I'll be honest, I knew of him, but in terms of I hadn't seen much of him, so I knew about his record and stuff. And I was probably one of them that was guilty of, having him as an underdog in both them fights and thinking he wasn't going to win both. But obviously, to be fair, the caliber of opponent at the time and who they had fought, I think a lot of people would have been on the same wavelength. And he shocked them twice because I think even though he lost to David Adelaide, it was a poor decision. And he was winning that fight anyway. And he went out there and I'll be honest, say he kind of dismantled Fraser Clark towards the back end of the fight. Just took him apart and easily won that one, I think, again. So, definitely they can't be looking at TKV and thinking, yeah, he's a walkover. And I'd tell you what, it'd be an hard night's work for Dave Allen. And I think, in all honesty, at this stage, I think TKV would beat him if they went and got into the ring now.
Does
I
that
agree with
underdog?
you.
Sorry, Ramez. Yeah, as you were. Sorry.
Yeah, I agree with you in that sense. Yeah, he's always been an underdog. He was expected to get blasted out by Adelaide, and I don't want to go too much into that situation because I think enough's been said about it. But it was poor the way the referee handled that bout. He was boxing really well. I thought that was meant to be his night, and since then, I felt like he was at risk of sort of getting frozen out a little bit. No one really mentioned his name, and then he got mandated by the board. Adelaide vacated, and then he boxed Fraser Clark, and it was hostile when we went over to Derby. It was a Fraser Clark crowd on a Fraser Clark show, and everything was meant to be Fraser Clark's win. And Jamie went and tore up the scripts. We mentioned Dave Allen, and I think Dave Allen knows that TKV is a hard fight. I think Allen looks at it a bit like if I box Jamie and get beat, where do I go from here? Whereas if I box sort of a fringe or level opponent and get beat, I can go back for the British title. So I think Allen looks at it from that perspective. But yeah, I think that under mentality, Jamie's always walked around as if like he's got a chip on his shoulder. He's gonna go prove that he's not this knockover that they think he is. And big news coming for TKV soon. I'm not gonna say what it is yet, but hopefully you find out in coming days.
Yeah, we
No
look forward to
exclusives,
it.
no exclusives this
No
time.
exclusive yet, none to it announced.
We look forward to it. But just before we move on, just with TKV, like you say, he has that switch, doesn't he? I've seen him in the Talk Sport studios and whatnot, where he has it, written off at times, and maybe pushed aside, and he's not everyone's flavour of the month. But you rile him up the wrong way. That kid switches, doesn't he? And he doesn't take no shit.
100%. I remember the Fraser Clark one that was sort of brewing for years. And Fraser Clark's a nice guy, but I remember a few years ago where Fraser Clark must have said something along the lines of Jamie will be a nice tune up for me or something like that, or a nice comeback fight for me. This is about 3 years ago before they were scheduled to box, and Jamie just switched up on him back then as well. So he's a lovely guy, a really nice guy, good family man. But if you upset him, you can flick that switch.
Yeah, so we look forward to what's next for TKV and certainly some big nights in the offing for him. But we'll move on to this weekend. As we say, it's a very, very busy weekend, both internationally and domestically. And we'll start domestically in Nottingham, the grudge match, the rematch, talking about blood between fighters. This has really brewed into a domestic grudge match of epic proportions with Lee Wood and Josh Warrington. The bad blood wasn't settled back in October of 2023. We're fast forward now, coming on 18, 19 months or so. My maths isn't the strong point. Ramez, I'll chuck it to you first. There's been a lot of naysayers, I'd like to say. For me, I'm all in on this fight, regardless of their age. I just love a domestic grudge match. 37-year-old Lee Wood, 35-year-old Josh Warrington. We'll all agree between the three of us that they're past the best days with all due respect, but the best days were very good. Are you bought in on this? Are you intrigued? Are you excited for Lee Wood Warrington too?
Yeah, yeah, it's a great fight. I mean, I thought the first fight was conclusive enough, but I might be a little bit biased. Obviously, Josh was boxing well at the time, but because of the halfway stage, I think Lee would have made adjustments and he got the stoppage. But I love the fight. I think even though their ages are a bit later in their careers, I think they still both got a lot to give. I think it's a perfect fight for the pair of them. I think from both perspectives is the ideal fight, rather than putting Warren in with someone or even Lee with someone who they're sort of going in as the away fighter, putting with each other and sort of put this to bed. Otherwise, there'll be those sort of 8-year-old men who would argue about to their deathbeds. Let's put it to bed now.
Absolutely, Jamie. I don't even need to ask you, man. You're on board with this. You're looking forward to this fight, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah, of course. It was a great first fight as well. What the thing is, what you can't deny about both fighters is they bring so much action. Both very much come forward fighters, and do you know what? Styles make fights, as they say, is the old cliche, and them two, their styles absolutely gel perfectly, and that's what gave us a firefight in the first one. And you know what? I sort of agree that it was actually quite conclusive. A star knockout stoppage is very much a conclusive way to win a fight. Obviously, like I understand that Warrington was probably on point. Should say he was winning the fight, but you know, like you do, you make adjustments, and he found that knockout shot. So it was conclusive, but at the same time, you could easily look at this and Josh Warrington could easily put Lee Wood out there with his work rate and his volume. So no, I'm all for it. I think it's exciting, and like I said, let's finally put it to bed.
All right, so I'm going to play devil's advocate a bit with these both. I'll chuck it to Ramez first, and then Jamie, you can have your say. We're talking about a knockout is as conclusive as it can get, but are we not bringing up the fact that Josh Warrington was on his feet and he turned round at 8 and the ref waved it off? It was the end of the round. Ramez, you're an ex-pro yourself. Talk to us from a boxing point of view. I know you're good friends with Lee Wood, but from a boxer's point of view, put yourself in Josh Warrington's boots, Josh Warrington's gloves, as he gets up from that, which was a big knockdown, by the way, but he beat the count. He's got his back to the referee, but he turns around on the count of 8. He says he knew where the ref was up to. Put yourself in his boots, his gloves. Should the fight have continued from his point of view?
I can't really argue with the referee's decision in the sense of, and obviously Josh Warren may have a point because the ref was at 8, but I think Josh Warren really shot himself in the foot when he turned his back to the ref and walked to his corner. It seemed as if at that time he was very dazed and didn't know exactly what to do at that moment of time. I think he might have recouped himself by the time the referee got to 8 or 9, but the referee's already got a split decision and he's playing with a fighter's health in that sense. So I can see why the referee stopped it at the moment he stopped it at. And obviously, if you're in Josh Warren's team, you can see why they'll be upset in the decision. Um, but I can see why the ref stopped it at the moment he did, and it's hard for refs when you already have that split second to make an adjustment. You got a fighter whose back is facing you, and you want them to be facing towards you rather than away from you.
Yeah, it's quite ironic. Just before I took it over to Jamie, in that Mauricio Lara fight, the first one where Lee was knocked out and Ben threw the towel in, that was on the verge of the end of the round, and everyone was thinking, oh, if he got back to his stool and he was able to sit down and maybe recoup and come out for the start of the next round. But as you say there, the same as Ben Davison in that moment, the same as the ref with Josh in this instant, it's a split second decision, isn't it? And you've got potentially a fighter's life on your hands.
This is it, and with Ben in that sense, if Ben didn't throw in the towel at that moment of time, and Lee would have got stopped probably worse in the next round. I'm not saying that would have happened, but it could have happened.
Yeah,
Then that rematch wouldn't have happened as quick as it did,
yeah.
and Lee wouldn't have had that moment to regain his title as quick as he did. So, in hindsight, that title was at the perfect decision at that moment of time.
Yeah, absolutely. Jamie, I'll chuck it to you. It is the fact that this fight only happening because of a potential controversy in the eyes of Josh Warrington and Team Josh Warrington that if Lee Wood had knocked him out in the middle of the round and there was not this argument that it should have gone on, it could have gone on and whatnot? Is that what we're basing this rematch on?
That's what it looks like. It is based on, and there's a point. Obviously, there is a point from Josh's point of view. Like it's weird with knockouts because we've touched on it loads of times. Sometimes, the fighter can get back up, but you just know in that moment he needs saving from himself, and that's what the ref's there for. And I just think it was a bit unfortunate in the way that he got up and manoeuvred around. That didn't really help him at the time. And I know obviously he did turn around and he argued the case, but getting up and he was still a bit. He weren't walking on steady legs at the time either, and he had his back to the ref. So again, there is split seconds, and obviously the ref made that decision, which adds to the controversy. So that is why we probably are getting a second fight. But I think we're getting a second fight because he's just not let it go either. Yeah. Josh Warrington, he's just like gone at him. Any opportunity he has in the media just to call for it, and he genuinely believes that he'll stop Lee Wood in this rematch, but that's one to be seen.
One of the things that I find interesting with this rivalry is how their careers have kind of run parallel, but they're both good, honest pros, aren't they? There's no messing around with them. There's no controversy, no like drugs or anything like that or cheating. They've come up the real way, sold tickets by hand, massive football-related fan bases, domestic titles all the way up to world titles. And you look back to that start of the COVID period when Lee was coming off, and I think it was around the time he was saying you got to know him. He was coming off the Jazza Dickens loss, didn't really know what he was doing. And Josh Warrington was on top of the world. He'd beat Lee Selby, he'd beat Carl Frampton, and then he's vacating his belts, looking to maneuver into bigger fights. Lee Wood gets this opportunity against Kanju, and then all of a sudden he just elevates into another stratosphere. So if you can talk to us a little bit about the Lee Wood you knew of them days when he was going into the Reece Small fight as an underdog, when he was going into the Kanju fight as somewhat cannon fodder with all due respect. He weren't given much hope. So talk to us about Lee Wood at those days of COVID and really breaking through.
Yeah, because I first met Lee Wood when he joined Ben's gym. It was around about end of 2020, the start of 2021. I can't remember which one it was, but it was in when he was in camp for Reece Mode, and he was coming off the Jazz Dickens loss. And his thing was, I just want to win a British title. That's all I want out of my career. And Ben made a few adjustments with him. And during that camp, it was sort of like Ben had a process for Lee, and I'm not sure Lee believed in it fully at the time. Um, and I think that he found that camp a little bit awkward at times. But when he got to Reece Mode bout, and he knocked him out the way he did and won the British title, that was his childhood dream achieved. And he's like, where do I go from here? And it's funny with the Josh Warrington sense because Josh Warrington was going to box Kanzu, got knocked out, and then that opened up Kanzu without an opponent. Lee got a phone call. I remember being in the gym in this day where he gets a phone call to box Kanzu on about 4 weeks' notice. And he, yeah, then he heard his back garden, and he was like, "Whatever happens, wherever the money is, I'm taking this opportunity." And that was the moment where like the flick was switched. Yep. That first bar I had with him was the most vicious he'd been at any point I'd ever sparred him before that. Yeah, I think we knew he was boxing for world title. That's where he really switched. And you hear the stories about Lee Wood's power. He hits really, really hard. And he's a horrible man to body spar. I'd rather body spar middleweights than Lee Wood. I walk around with bad shoulders and biceps and all sorts. And so he got the Kanzu fight done, what he did to Kanzu, then went on to Conlon. Dealt with Michelle Lara after the loss in the first fight, but then beat him convincing the rematch. And he's gone from strength to strength, and he's changed his life. Lee Wood is genuinely, as well as a friend, he's like one of my boxing heroes.
That's really good words. Really, really good words. Talking of shocking moments during COVID, we'll just touch on Josh Warrington a little bit because when he lost that first fight to Mauricio Lara, Jamie, I remember, and I was slightly ignorant to Mauricio Lara. You see these unheralded Mexicans, South Americans, we say it all the time. They come over and it's the biggest fight of their lives. And he really did do a job on Josh Warrington that night. And it really set Josh Warrington back for a little while. He didn't have a good time around those couple of years, vacating titles and then losing to Mauricio Lara in the rematch. Really shocking night, that wasn't it, that result with Mauricio Lara the first time around.
Yeah, I think you know what made it even worse? I think the fact there was no crowd. Like that, I think that made it worse. And I think if you're watching that back as a fighter as well, that must be a bit sickening to watch because you're gonna have to go back and study where you went wrong. And I think that's not a nice sight for you. So obviously, not getting watching yourself get knocked out is not great, but having to do it, in an arena where it's dead silence, like there's no crowd, there's nothing. I think that made it a bit worse than what it probably looked. But it was a bad stoppage, and yeah, I think a lot of people underrated Lara. Um, he came and he shot the world that night, but he definitely announced himself to the world as well. So, but yeah, it was weird for Josh because his career, it's kind of like Josh Warrington's. Like that was the night where both their careers went in a different trajectory, but in opposite directions. Lee Wood went up, and Josh Warrington's slowly just been going on a bit of a decline. But I don't know. It's a weird one with Josh.
Absolutely. Well, fast forward a couple of fights, Ramez. Talk to me about Lee Wood's defeat to Anthony Kakachi. Anthony Kakachi's on a great run of form. He's fighting Jazza Dickens up next in a big Queensberry show out in Dublin. But it was a bit of an eye opener, wasn't it? The way Anthony Kakachi took Lee Wood apart. I'm not sure if there's anything going on in camp or behind the scenes if Lee was at 100%. But yeah, talk to me about the Kakachi defeat for Lee Wood.
I think I wasn't too involved with the camp with that one, but I think there was a lot of ring rust there. With that, he had a long time out. The Josh Warrington one had injuries, and then he had, I believe, over a year out. So I think that just caught up, especially being at a new weight. And let's give credit to Kakachi as well because he's had another real run of form. We spoke about all these boxers who've struggled to get opportunities. Lee's one of them, small hall. Josh Warrington's another one, small hall. Um, Gotta give credit to Kakachi. I've heard about Kakachi for years, where he has been getting opportunities, and just that was his night. So fair play to him.
Absolutely. These are the type of fighters with Kakachi, with Lee Wood, with Josh Warrington. When you're training the kids in the gym, that you go, these are the pros, these are the real guys. Your Anthony Joshua's, your Tyson Fury's a once in a lifetime, once in a generation. But these guys that start from the small hole, these are the inspirations.
This is it. Like Lee Wood lost early on for a British title, at super bantamweight, went on to do what he's done. Kakachi lost to Martin Ward for a British title, is going to do what he's done. Josh Warren had to sell tickets to be able to box. He's going to do what he's done. So when I see all these boys I'm coaching as like all the amateurs, and I say, you might have a setback. Don't worry about it. Get back to it. Keep working. You, if you want it enough and you apply what's being said, you will get there eventually. It might not be on it's the time you felt, but everyone's on different timings.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we push for some predictions, because we don't sit on the fence here on the Let's Stop Boxing podcast,
Never. Yeah.
I just want to go with what might be potentially next. So we'll talk about winner and losers. We're all going to have our own predictions, but let's say for me, I'll chuck it out there first. I think if Lee Wood was to win again, I could safely see both men driving off into retirement. I think there'd be nothing left for either of them, with all due respect. Unless maybe Lee Wood and Michael Conlan, because I'd love to see that fight again. Josh Warrington, I think it's as simple as saying if he wins, it's a trilogy. Boxing's never as clean cut as that, but I think we could see two modern British greats retire on Saturday night, given the way a fight might play out. But I'll chuck it to you first, Ramez. What give us a scenario for both win and loss?
Um, my answer would be the same for both. Really, I think winner could possibly retire or could look at a world title shot at 130 pounds. And lose going off in the sunset. If both of them retired, win or lose, would not blame them. They both had incredible careers. They're both heroes to the boxing fans. So um, I wouldn't mind seeing either retire, but the winner might look at a shot at 130 pound title.
Yeah, definitely. Jamie, you got anything different, or we all in agreement?
Well, yeah, more so I think if Lee Wood wins, I think they both retire. I think if Josh Warrington wins, I think I don't think they'll have a trilogy. I think if Josh Warrington wins, Lee Wood will probably retire because we forget sometimes he's 37. I know he looks in great shape and that, but you know, um, but I think Josh would probably carry on. I think if Josh gets the win, I think he'll push for one last title shot. But I don't think he could probably win a title now. But I think because of the way he is, I think in his head he will think, right, I've got another chance of winning a world title here. Whereas I think for Lee Wood, he's done everything, and I think he's probably at that right time to retire.
I think that both the names carry enough weight, don't they, to get another world title shot. Whether, people say they're deserving or whatnot, you never know, and no one will ever be in agreement. One thing that does, just chuck it out there early or quickly, that hurts my head is Lee Wood is older than Josh Warrington. I think because Josh Warrington feels like he's been around longer, and Lee Wood
Yeah.
kind of burst into his prime a little bit later. It always baffles me that Lee Wood's 2 years older than Josh Warrington. I always thought it'd be the other way around. But anyway, we'll chuck for some predictions. Ramez, as you're the guest, we'll give you the honour of being our first prediction for Josh Warrington, Lee Wood too. How's it play out, my friend?
Yeah, just to mention what you said about Lee Wood being 2 years older, he is a consummate professional. All the younger pros in the gym look at Lee Wood for advice on how to live their life, even outside of training camps. So I had to put that out there. My prediction is a Lee Wood stoppage. I think it will come within 8 rounds.
Clean cut, I like it. Jamie, I'm gonna hold back. I'll chuck it to you first. What have you got?
Do you know what? I think Lee Wood gets the stoppage as well, and I think it'll be. I think it might. I think it's going to be middle rounds between five and 5 and 7. I think he'll stop John Warrington. Yeah.
You know what? I feel like I'm being overrun here because I'm in the minority. I guess I'm going with the underdog, and I don't mean to piss you off, Ramez, but I'm going with Josh Warrington. I just think he's got slightly more left in the tank. Lee Wood's always going to be a dangerous puncher. Josh Warrington will have to come through patches of trouble. I just see the high energy, the Duracell bunny style of Josh Warrington being too much for Lee Wood at this point. With all due respect, like we say, we don't sit on the fence, so I'm not looking to piss anybody off. But Josh Warrington for me on points with patches of trouble, but I think it's going to be a great fight. Either way, talking of great fights, we'll move on to the undercard, and this is a standout fight for me. This is a throwback fight in Ishmael Davis defending his British and Commonwealth titles against Bilal Fawaz, two guys that have got Rocky style stories. You can make movies on either man, and I do think this is a great piece of matchmaking. Ramez, you a fan of this fight, Bilal Fawaz against Ishmael Davis?
I love the fight. I just want to start with it's nice to see Fawaz be on this stage because I remember him winning the ABAs, I think back in 2010 or something like that when I was an amateur. So we're going back 16 years and he couldn't box internationally. He couldn't turn pro because of his whole passport issue. He got thrown into a detention center. No country wanted him and he lost years of his career. And you look at him and think, this guy's lost his prime now. He's never going to get that opportunity again. And here he is. So especially when you see the story and you've seen him at amateur shows, it's nice to see him at this stage now. And same with Ishmael Davis. I don't know as much about his story as I do about Fawaz, but he's another one that's had a few problems with the law, turned his life around, and he's now British and Commonwealth champion. Love the fight, love the stories of both. The fight itself can't disappoint.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. Just to expand a little bit on Bilal Fawaz of those days, did he carry himself in this same confident, borderline cocky manner, if you like? He almost been compared to a James Bond villain at times. He was brilliant in that Janae Bostan uh, build up, both fights. He played the part really, really well, sold the fight. Did you see inklings of that back in the day, or is this something that's built with the experiences that he's had to go through?
No, he's always been a flamboyant character. In the amateurs, some people didn't even know his name, just know him as the guy who used to throw Superman punches because he used to throw Superman punches in fights and he used to get counts with him as well. So he's always had a flamboyant style and he's carried that over to the pros now as well.
Absolutely. So Ishmael Davis, Jamie, last time out, he beat Sam Gilly to win the British Commonwealth titles, which is a fantastic achievement in itself. But I thought it was really important for Ishmael to get a solid win on the board. He was the nearly man against Sergey Bowadchuk, taking that fight on late notice and getting stopped. Josh Kelly, he lost that fight. He lost the fight with Kevin Agyarko, and you don't want to be that nearly man, do you? And getting that win over Sam Gilly and winning those titles, a crowning moment, but a must-win fight for him, that against Sam Gilly, I thought, Jamie.
Yeah, he needed that win badly, and you could see it when the celebrations and Eddie getting involved as well, because he was desperate. He needed a win, and it was a shame because he gave such a good performance in all three of the fights that you mentioned, and he come, he didn't win either of all three of them. He didn't win all three of them, and it looked like he was on the way out. And Sam Gilly is a great technical fighter. I want his style. I love his style, but unfortunately, Ishmael was just too big, too strong on the night. Watts for everything that he had to give, and it was good to see. And I thought it was quite a conclusive victory in the end. I know there was moments where it was quite tight, and it was a bit, what did you prefer? But I think in the end, the right decision was given, and it was good to see. Ishmael get that crowning moment. And for everything that they've been through, maybe this might be Fawaz's crowning moment where he gets to loft that British title after everything that he went through. But I don't know. I don't know. Matt, are we doing the predictions on this one?
Yeah, we'll get to a prediction. We'll just what I ask Ramez Mahmood just a little bit about Bilal Fawaz. How impressed was you with the victories over Junaid Boston? Because he was brought in both times as the away fighter, as the opponent. Junaid Boston was a highly touted matchroom prospect. The first fight, was you in agreement with the draw, or do you think Bilal Fawaz won both fights?
I wouldn't say it was a complete robbery. I did think he just about nicked it,
Yeah.
but I can't argue too much with the draw. I did think he deserved the second one. Um, Going into the first fight, I didn't know what he had left. I know his age was catching up with him. He had a loss early in his career. I see him have a few fights that were made that he should have won easy on small hall shows that he made hard work, and I thought maybe he doesn't have as much left as he used to. So I wasn't sure what we was going to get out of Jenny Boston. I thought Boston would have beat him the first time. He really turned up, and I think he's one of them that sort of rises to the occasion. Maybe couldn't get up for the small hall shows, but for these matchroom shows, these big events, he really has got up for it. I wonder if he'll turn up another gear for Ishmael Davis.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll chuck predictions out there. I'll go first now, so I don't want to cheat and just piggyback off your guys' predictions. But in this fight, we don't do sentiment in boxing. But I really don't want a loser in this fight, and I don't want a draw. We need a conclusive winner. But I really don't want either guy to win because you don't know where the loser will go from this fight. Both guys incredible physical condition. Both absolute specimens. But I'm going to go with another upset. I think Bilal Fawaz is so unorthodox, as we say, the potential for Superman punches in there. You never know what you're quite going to get with Bilal Fawaz. Um, I dare say both guys turned up at 100%. You'd make Ishmael Davis a favourite, but fighters don't turn up at 100%. And I'm going to go with Bilal Fawaz in a classic barn burner, but to win on a tight points decision. Jamie, I'll chuck it to you. What have you got for this fight?
I'm gonna go for again, like you said, we don't do sentiments in boxing, and I feel bad saying it, but I think Ishmael Davis will probably stop Fawaz within six. Yeah, I do. And I like Fawaz, and I think he's a great character, and he is so unorthodox and flamboyant in that ring. But I think Ishmael Davis is a different beast to anyone he's ever fought, and I think watching the Boston fight back, Boston's are totally not Ishmael Davis, and I think unfortunately he's going to walk through him, and I think he'll hurt him.
Interesting. So, Ramez, you've got the deciding vote.
Yeah,
Please don't tell me you're going to
yeah.
pick a draw here. We've got one Davis, one Fawaz. Don't pick a
Mate,
draw.
I don't pick draws. I don't stay on the fence. I love the fire story. I love to see him do it. But if I'm making a prediction with my head, I'm gonna go with Ishmael Davis. I think his extra experience at world level will help him through the rounds. I think it both have their moments within the first 6 to 8 rounds. I think the longer it goes, the more Ishmael Davis' work rate will start getting on top of fires. And I'm gonna go with the Davis points win. Wouldn't be shocked if it was a late stoppage though, but I'm going to say Davis on points.
You guys are going to kick me into retirement here. This is two fights in a row here where I've been outvoted 2-1. But anything of note on the undercard? We got Dave Allen, who we've mentioned, Leo Atang, who's an exciting heavyweight prospect, going in with Dan Garber, which is a step up of sorts. TMA Ayton, I think she's a fantastic prospect. Meatball, Molly McCann as well. So anything of note for you, Ramez, on the undercard? Anything you got your eye on?
No, necessarily. I like
Oh,
to see the
Sandy
Leo
Ryan in the
tank.
world title fight as well. Sorry, Sandy Ryan, of course, in the world
Yeah.
title fight.
No, necessarily. I think I like to see the Leo tank journey. Dave Allen's, I think, is going to rack up another win and then look for a big fight from there. But otherwise, looking forward to Lee and the Fawaz and Davis fight.
Yeah, absolutely. Jamie, anything of note for you? Are you on board with this Leo Tang and Moses Itama comparisons? Or are we too early on the journey for that?
Yeah, maybe a bit too early at the moment. Well, I think a town was just a different breed at this stage.
Special fighter.
So special, man. But no, I'm looking forward to seeing how he does fare. Another up and coming fighter. So yeah, no, I'm excited to see how he does play out. But I think the vast majority of people are going to look forward to the two main fights on that card, the main event and the co-main.
Absolutely. We look forward to Saturday night in Nottingham. Guys, while we're listening, if you want to chuck us a prediction in the comments below, make sure you do that, or chuck us a comment over on our social media channels. Let us know your thoughts on our predictions, and you can come back in next week and laugh at me for being wrong against these two guys. But we'll switch over to Las Vegas, the early hours of Sunday morning, Saturday night stateside. We've got the small matter of a WBC welterweight world title fight. Defending champion Mario Barrios going on with the Mercurial King Ryan Garcia. Ramez, as an ex-pro yourself, I'm intrigued to get your thoughts on this fight. And I was listening to a Mauricio Sullivan interview with Chris Mannix, and Chris Mannix divides opinion, but he was asking some good questions. He's almost like an American version of Simon Jordan, in my opinion. But surrounding the WBC welterweight rankings, Conor Benner's mandatory challenger, King Ryan Garcia getting this challenge or this opportunity against Mario Barrios, coming off the defeat to Rolly Romero without a win at 147 pounds. Is he a rightful challenger, in your opinion, to a WBC welterweight world title?
No, he's not. He hasn't won. He's lost two of his last three or three of his last four or something like that. So no, he's not a rightful challenger to a world title in a weight that he's never had a win at. After coming off a year's drug suspension, which is a joke in itself, but it's boxing, money talks, it makes money, so it makes sense as well.
Like I say, you retired at the minute, but even as a pro, with all due respect, on a domestic scene, you was always, had lofty ambitions, I'm sure. But
Yeah.
even from your position, you see somebody like Ryan Garcia, and I heard today that the substance that he failed for before the Devin Haney fight. We had the controversy of Dalton Smith against Sabrina Matias, and Sabrina Matias, uh, the amount in his system was below the threshold of what the WBC can claim is contamination. Apparently, Ryan Garcia's failed test with Devin Haney was 60 times the amount that was in Sabrina Matias's failed test. From an ex-pro's point of view, regardless of the level, you've seen the very top of the sport. It's almost just brushing the carpet, and it stinks. Like we say, we don't sit on the fence with predictions. We don't sit on the fence with opinions either. It stinks, man.
Mate, drugs are drugs, no matter what the levels were. And even if it was a minimal level, was it a minimal level 3 days prior? Or was it just you just get at a time where it was coming out of your system? Um, as a drugs are drugs, and at the level these guys are at, surely they have someone checking their supplements, checking what's going in their bodies. Um, it's becoming more and more common. And the fact that Ryan Garcia's got a world title shot off the back of that now, um, is not right. And even if he didn't knowingly take the substance, irrespective, it was in his system. So I think we need cranking down on all these people getting drugs in their system. It's dangerous in the sport. And I'm glad Dalton Smith got the win he did, because I think it was a joke that fight was allowed to go on. But now that it's happened, I'm glad it did, because Dalton Smith got the big win there.
Yeah, absolutely. Jamie, I'll chuck it over to you with Ryan Garcia. We see that he popped dirty for that PEDs after the Devin Haney win. He looked explosive. He looked powerful. Devin Haney has never been troubled like that before or since the Ryan Garcia fight. He then goes and serves a ban. He moves up to 147, gets the WBA title shot against Rolly Romero, looks completely out of sorts, gets dropped, gets soundly beaten on points. Now he gets this world title fight. In your opinion, like, where's the deterrent for the fighters here, Jamie? You're told,
Well,
as long as your
there is
name
none.
or your following's big enough,
There is none
you do it.
really. Look at Gerald Miller, man. The guy's allowed to keep fighting and fighting and fighting, and he's popped more times than I popped zits on my face.
Mhm.
So I just don't get it. It's absolutely wild, and a lot of it just gets brushed under the carpet. It's funny as well because Deontay Wilder reminded me actually that Tyson Fury and that got popped for Nandrolone back in the day, and it's like, oh yeah, I forgot about that, and that's how much it gets brushed under the carpet. And unfortunately, when you carry a lot of weight in gold, like Ryan Garcia does, you're always going to get opportunities. And I'm sorry, like the WBC, as bent as they are, they're happy because they've got fighters that don't want to pay the sanctioning fees. So they'll be like, Ryan, you've got money, you'll pay the sanctioning fees. So yeah, we'll sanction a fight that definitely isn't in our rule books to be sanctioning, but we'll do it anyway because we made the rules. And I don't know, man. We live in a crazy world, and at the end of the day, I'm just going to put it out there as well. you can I don't believe in the contamination. I think you know what you're doing. You've got a lot of money. A lot of these fighters got a lot of money. They've got good teams around them, and I think it just comes down. I think it comes down to a case of obviously this is all speculation, but I think a lot of it comes down to missing the cycle when the cycles end. I think that's what some of it comes down to. I'm not going to say it's for all,
Yeah.
but I do know that in the world, some people do go on cycles and they've got teams around them to manage that. Again, speculation. I'm not saying it is definitely happening, but let's just not be stupid. Let's call a spade a spade.
Absolutely. Ramez, I'll just chuck it over to you, man. With the Devin Haney fallout after that fight, the Devin Haney and his dad Bill, they wanted to sue Ryan, and I think they went down the legality route.
Yeah,
And it seemed that the boxing world was pointing fingers and laughing at him, almost calling him soft. But if we're having it
joke. Yeah,
right, this
joke.
this is it's ridiculous. Why is Devin Haney is the victim of this, if you like, without trying to sugarcoat it or dress it up as anything that it's not. But surely has every right to be as pissed off as they were and to go down these routes because
And
the governing bodies in the sport aren't taking care of it. So if they go down a legal route, is that the way to go? Is that the way to rid the sport of drug cheats?
like Devin Haney had to go through 12 rounds of shots from Ryan Garcia, who had juice in his system. That could take years of his, not even years of his career, years of his life potentially. Um, I don't blame him for going down the suing route because no one else was doing anything about it. So why shouldn't Devin Haney sue? And obviously Devin Haney's done well now. He's become world champion 147. But if Ryan Garcia was in with a fire on that night, who wasn't as skilled as Devin Haney was, could have been some serious damage. Um, if I'm going to go to Bill Matisse, and I don't want to bring this up and be nasty with this, but if you look back to a previous fight of his, didn't have a great ending.
Yeah,
If I don't if you're gonna cheat, I don't believe you've done it for that one specific fight. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I think more needs to be done.
absolutely. I think Andy Clark, who I think is a fantastic boxing brain, I was listening to a podcast that he does, and he was saying it's all well and good after the fact, making it a no contest and scratching it off his record. So Devin Haney doesn't look like he's got a loss on his record and banning Ryan Garcia for 6 or 12 months or whatever it is. But he balloon weight, he failed the drug test, and everyone moves on with their careers. But he compared it to, when someone's wrongfully convicted and they're sent to prison, and they do X amount of years, and then they realize it was wrong, they shouldn't have been convicted, and then they're released. You still serve that time. You can't get that time back, and Devin Haney can't untake them punches, it can't untake them knockdowns, and it doesn't it doesn't deter people from doing that again. Like you say, it's not a one-off. People tend to be in cycles, as Jamie has alluded to. There's no deterrent, is there? There's just no deterrent at all.
Is what I mean. Like he might have got paid what 5 mil for that fight, taking 100K fine. He's still quite well off, isn't he?
Absolutely, and we don't. I'll just make this. There's a fight that's going to go ahead, and we're all going to watch it. Mario Barrios, the defending champion, he drew with Manny Pacquiao. Is it? We talk about Jamie TKV, British heavyweight champion, being overlooked, underrated, disregarded. Mario Barrios, WBC welterweight world champion. He just talked about, is it? Or Manny Pacquiao, I'll come out of retirement at nearly 50 years of age. I'll pick up the WBC world title. Or Conor Ben, I'll come back down from middleweight and I'll pick up that 147 belt as and when I see fit. Or now Ryan Garcia being given the opportunity to fight. Is Mario Barrios the most disrespected world champion I can certainly remember anyway?
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, he's quite disrespected. Doesn't feel that Lewis Crocker doesn't get the respect he deserves. That's also at the same weight as well. And if the Ryan Garcia that turned up against Rowley turns up against Barrios, Barrios probably beats him as well. I'm not sure what kind of life that Ryan Garcia is living at the moment. I see a lot of him on Instagram and YouTube videos and all these podcasts. Is he actually training? Is he actually living the life? Or in his mind, is it a given? If he's going into it as if it's a given, then he could become unstuck again.
Absolutely. Jamie, just touching on something Ramez said there with the way he's training on social media and whatnot. A lot of people try and follow in Floyd Mayweather's footsteps in many different things, whether it be flaunting the undefeated record, flaunting the money. But Floyd used to have a way of, didn't he, when he was training in camp and he'd make it look like he was eating cheeseburgers or drinking a milkshake. But that was all for the cameras. Whereas these other fighters, they tend to think maybe that's what he was actually doing and we'll follow that blueprint. It wasn't the case with Floyd. And do you trust Ryan Garcia is going 100% in camp for this fight?
It's weird because I don't know. He's we all thought like, is he really taking it serious when with the Devin Haney fight, drinking beer and thinking, all that, doing that, doing what I know, doing what I know I can. But it was so I don't really know with Ryan Garcia because I feel like everything's just a game to him. Like everything is just sort of calculated in a weird way, whether it's to gain views on Instagram or to position himself into opportunities in the boxing world. I don't know. He kind of like I watched his interview the other day and I thought he was on drugs. I'll be honest, I thought he was on drugs, right?
Probably was.
But then, well, then he was like that in the build up to the Devin Haney fight, and obviously I know he had drugs in his system, but then he put on a great performance. Like he actually did a good boxing performance. Maybe that had something to do with the drugs in his system. But we all went into that. A lot of people went into that thinking he's lost the plot here. Like he's not took it serious. Like he hasn't taken it serious. Not turning up for weight. And then obviously he went and won, but which was then discounted. So I don't know. I genuinely don't know with Ryan Garcia. He's an absolute oddball
Yeah,
in the nicest way possible.
he is, to
I mean,
say the least. Go
I,
on,
I,
Ramez.
I can see a version of Garcia that turns up and wipes the floor with Barrios if he turns up at his best. Is he going to turn up at his best? I'm not totally convinced yet.
This is the thing with Ryan Garcia. Like when you talk about his best, he's actually fundamentals. He's a fantastic boxer, and yeah, he might be in a position where he's not, but he should be around about that world title level. He should be fighting opponents around that level because he is good enough to do that. But over the last few years, he's not been that. I don't know. I don't know. He does not seem the same person as what he was. He was coming up and he was taking everything very seriously. Whereas I think I don't know. Maybe social media trying to get a bigger following on that. Maybe that's more important to him at the moment. I don't know, but he doesn't seem the same person as what he was when he was coming through.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. Ramez, before we move on to predictions, I'll just chuck Conor Ben's name in there. It seems that this is the belt he wants more than any other. Regardless of the result on Saturday night, do you see Conor Ben beating either Mario Barrios or Ryan Garcia if that fight was to be made later in 2026, or you're
I'm
not a
actually
believer
not
of in
totally
Conor?
convinced he makes 147 too safely. I'm not 100% sure on that one. He's had a long time out of making 147. Um, I think they're 50-50 fights with him. I can't say for sure he beats him. I think they're 50-50 fights. A lot depends on how he makes weight.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you got any interest in him stopping off at 154 for a domestic stadium fight with Josh Kelly? Because I'm all up for that. I think that's a more
No,
logical opportunity.
no, I'd like to see it as a good fight for the UK. Probably 154 at this moment of time might suit him better. But Josh Kelly's a much tougher task than the other two you mentioned at 147.
Absolutely. Jamie, do you see Conor Ben getting in the mix there at 147? Do you see him beating Mario Barrios or Ryan Garcia?
No, I'll be honest. I don't think he beats either of them. I think if he fought him at 154, he'd have a better opportunity. But he can't make 147 anymore. I don't think. I think he was a big boy at 147 anyway. That will be his undoing. I think he can mix it with them both. But I think him draining down to 147, I think would be his downfall in the fight. I think I'm not comparing him to Roy Jones Jr. when I say this, but it would be like when he dropped down two weight divisions for his fight with Tarver, and he got stopped quite bad because unfortunately when you do as other fighters will attest to, when you do strip weight and you boil down, you're creating more space within the brain to bounce around as well. And I think
Horrible. Yeah, it's
it,
horrible that making weight.
yeah,
Horrible stuff.
it's not pretty, and I think that will be his big downfall. So I can't see him beating either of them. Not at 147.
No, interesting. Or we wait to see what comes for Conor Ben next because I think the path will be made a lot clearer with a result either way on Saturday night. Ramez, we'll get into predictions for the big fight. Mario Barrios, Ryan Garcia. I'll chuck it to you first, my friend. Who've you got Saturday night WBC welterweight world title fight?
I think Ryan Garcia being on these videos, I think it might be a bit of a front. I think Ryan Garcia is going to actually turn up on this now. I'm going to go with Ryan Garcia, maybe a late stoppage.
Interesting. Jamie?
Oh, I think if it's the Ryan Garcia that's serious about winning and wants to be a world champion, I think he'll win, and I think he'll win quite a wide points decision. But if he doesn't turn up and it's all a joke, he could get stopped inside six. But my prediction is Ryan Garcia points.
I think this is the first time we've got a full house of predictions because I'm going to take Ryan Garcia. As no matter the social media following that he's got or the name that he's got, the draw that he is, you start going on a run of a no contest, a failed drug, ballooning weight, losing to Rolly Romero. If you used to lose to Mario Barrios, he's dropping down a couple of levels. He might even move over to the influencer stuff. But I think he's going to see this as some sort of last chance saloon. And I think he's better than Mario Barrios at pretty much everything. He's faster, he hits harder, he's quicker, his feet are better. And I think everything that Mario Barrios does will play into the hands of Ryan Garcia. And I see Ryan Garcia with that beautiful left hook of his paying dividends late in the fight, and I'm going for a stoppage in between rounds 9 and 12 for Ryan Garcia. We'll look at the undercard quickly, just because I think there's a few fights in there that'll have interest to our domestic 140 pounders. We've got Richardson Hitchens. He's defending his title against a former opponent of Ryan Garcia in Duarte. Ramez, are you impressed with Richardson Hitchens? Is he a guy that you like to watch?
Yeah, I've not seen a lot of him. I watched Richard Hitchens versus Cambosis, and I also watched him against Liam Paro, and he boxed very well with Liam Paro. I think he's a good fighter, Richard Hitchens. I think he'll come through Duarte. I think I'll put on a good performance in that fight.
Yeah, I see him getting the win there. He's the IBF champion, so it could be Adam Azim that's next in line if Adam Azim can get that win against Lemos under his belt. Jamie, is Adam Azim, is he a world champion in weighting at the 140 pound division, do you think?
Yeah, I think he's definitely got all the tools to be a world champion, Adam Azim. But that would be a very hard fight for him. That I think. I genuinely wouldn't be able to pick who would win out of that fight. I'd want Azim to win, being the British fighter. But I think that's a great 50-50 that for the 140 pound belt. But I think that you can't sleep on both fighters. Really, I think they're both massively impressive. And yeah, I think if we get that so early, I think if that happens so early on in the careers, we could probably be looking at a trilogy as well because they could end up fighting again down the line, winner or loser.
Yeah, absolutely. The other super lightweight world title fight on the card, Gary Antoine Russell against Andy Hiroka, Battle of the Southpaws. Ramez, do you know too much about either fighter? Gary Antoine Russell, brother of Gary Russell, of course. I think they're all called Gary Russell, aren't there? There's a few of them all
Yeah.
brothers. You know too much of this fight?
Not too much about him. No, no. I remember the other guy Russell at featherweight. He was a good fighter. Not seen too much of this one, so I can't make too much of a prediction. I know that he's who beat him. Was it
Puello, the mandatory
Puello? Yeah, Puello
WBC
beat him.
mandatory
Puello lost to
champion.
Matthias. Yeah, but I've not seen too much of Russell. I know that he's meant to be a big puncher. I know he come with a strong amateur pedigree. I think might have lost to Pat McCormack as an amateur in the WSB at some point as well. But no, I don't know too much about him though.
Yeah, there's Frank Martin also on the card and a couple of younger prospects. So yeah, it should be a good card all in. Before we close out, we tend to look at the latest boxing news and love him, hate him, whatever. He makes headlines. John Fiore, Ramez,
Oh,
Jamie loves it.
Yeah.
uh, the announced press conference for Tyson Fury's return to the ring against Aslanbek Makhmudov, and John Fury done John Fury things. Ramez before because Jamie's chomping at the bit, so I'm going to keep him waiting. Talk to me. What did you make of John Fury's
I've
display?
just grown to accept it by this point. That's what I can say to it. It's expected. It's not my cup of tea. I'm not a fan of it. I say I've just come to expect it by this point. Um, Carl Froch, fantastic boxer. I wouldn't want to go and scrap with Carl Froch out on road. I remember him having to go out Frampton as well a year or two ago, and can I say these are good fighters who've achieved a lot more than John Fury has. I'm not sure what the Carl Froch story is, but it makes for views, and as I say, if it makes money, it makes sense, but it's not my thing.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. But Jamie, the floor's yours, man. Give it to me.
what the fuck? What is wrong with him? What is wrong with him? Do you know what it is, right? He's getting worse. I think that's the problem. He's getting worse, and it's like I don't know whether he's now thinking, "Oh, I've got to go out there and be John Fury," because this whole I don't care about the cameras. All of a sudden, you're doing what didn't he do that? Was it a Paddy Power commercial or something with a Bet365 and now what is he just takes the limelight from his son. It's like even the press conference. What was all that about? Standing up and going, right, I like to stop you there. I'm gonna leave now. And then, like even that was like why have you sat down? Like, you've made it about you at the start of the press conference. I'm not I'm not for it, which is weird because I used to be for it.
Right.
But I don't. But he weren't. He was not like this. Do you know? I don't know if his age is. He's had took too many shots in all them bare knuckle fights he's had that we don't know about. But I don't know.
You
It's
know
not
what
for
that
me.
might be? That might be. He might have done it earlier, a bit more of a mellowed down version, got a lot of views. And I think the views might have started dropping off a little bit. And he thought to himself, how can I get these views back? I've
Yeah,
got to up the ante a little bit. Might be a
yeah,
bit of that.
maybe. But it's not the
Yeah.
right way to do it,
No,
John
no.
B. It's not. Do you know what was crazy? I was waiting for him just at some point to go, "I'll bum you," like when he do with KSI, because it just like. Well, I don't.
The thing is that gets me, right? And try and play it down the middle best I can. Um, when you have certain fighters and they might not have the profile or the confidence or the character to sell themselves, and it needs a bit of a kick up the arse with the promotion of a fight. We'll talk about Tyson Fury. I've had my opinions on Tyson Fury, and I love him at certain times, hate him at other times. But Tyson Fury is the biggest showman in boxing, and he's been the biggest showman in British boxing in a long time. He doesn't need no help selling a fight, So I don't understand what John Fury's role is, Ramez. I don't understand what his role is because Tyson Fury doesn't need no hype, man. He's the complete package.
He brings the hype himself here, he doesn't he?
Yeah, I just don't get it. I just don't get it. But we won't give him any more time at this time. We've got the fight week to look forward to that. Last couple of things I'll get into right before we come on. We had a couple of fight announcements
Yeah.
in from Matchroom in Manchester. Pat Brown, exciting cruiserweight prospect, but he's looking like he's on a fast track. He's going in with Vasil Ducar, who's fought Jeff Clark, and he's fought Crispin Smith. Tough opponent. Ramez, an impressive move, I thought, from Matchroom to match Pat Brown at this moment in his career with somebody that experienced.
Yeah, impressive move. They believe in him. I was watching an Eddie Hearn interview the other day, and he was said in the interview, "I want Pat Brown to box Jaya Patel at the end of the year." I'm not sure if that's Eddie Hearn just being a salesman to sell Pat Brown. If he means it, I don't think he did mean it because that's a big move. But no, but boxing, putting him with Vasyl Duka shows serious intent. Um, I like the fight. I think Pat Brown's a good prospect. And I look forward to seeing how he gets on with someone like Vasyl Duka.
You know what? I think it's interesting to say there with Jaya Patel. I dare say Eddie wouldn't have made that comparison if Jaya Patel had not signed with Zuffa Boxing. If he was still a
Yeah.
matchroom fighter, he wouldn't have been calling him out like that, would he?
Nah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think that
yeah. I
that
think he knows
definitely played a
that.
part.
Yeah, I think he knows that that one probably won't happen. And Eddie Hearn's great at what he does. It's great marketing for Pat Brown, and Pat Brown is the goods. So fair play if you can get his name out there, go and do it. And then Pat Brown's just got to keep putting in the performances as he goes up the levels.
Absolutely. And the other fight announced, Jamie, April 18th, the WBO interim light heavyweight world title, Calum Smith against David Morrell. This for me is a
Great fight.
cracking fight. Talk
What a
to me.
great fight. I've literally we before we come on, yeah, I saw it come up on Facebook. And one of my best mates, massive boxing fan, fought himself. Texted him straight away and was like, "Mate, what a great fight announcement that is!" I think that's an absolute barnstorm, and I think that's a clash of two great styles. And it's good to see a fight like David Morrell on these shows, and hopefully we can go and watch that one, and we can watch it live and watch a fighter of his style move around. But I think it's a great fight for Callum Smith as well. I think it's one where it's a winnable fight for him just as much as it's a winnable fight for Morrell, and it puts him right back in there with world title opportunity. And I think out of all the Smith brothers, I think Callum's, no disrespect to the Smith brothers, just he was that level above them, where and you see that in his performances. And I think he's still got a bit left in the tank, and I think he's still got a few upsets in him as well. And I think, yeah, what a great fight to bring to Liverpool.
Absolutely. Well, guys, it's been a cracking podcast. I really appreciate the input from both of you guys. Ramez, is there anything you'd like to add before we close out? Any plugs, any followers you want to give a shout out, anything like that?
No, just thanks for having me, and thanks for all the people who've given me the shout out in my retirement. I get love all the time, so I appreciate that. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Jamie, anything from yourself?
No, no, I've touched up on some good topics. Great, it was a great podcast. Really enjoyed it. A lot of different opinions flowing about, and great to have another guest on. And we look forward to moving on to the next one.
Yeah, absolutely. So I appreciate everyone for watching, for listening, for consuming our content. I appreciate Ramez for jumping on the podcast this week. Jamie, as always, guys, It's been episode 17 of the Let's Talk Boxing podcast. I've been Luke, he's been Jamie. Check us out across all social media channels. Give us a like, give us a follow, give us a subscribe. It's all greatly appreciated. We'll see you next week.